Sunday, February 8th, 2026, 5:56 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm JC. How's it going? We're going to talk about Stephen King. Now, don't leave. Just sit right back. And, just sit right back and you'll hear the tale of a guy named Stephen King and some books he wrote a long time ago. They sound a lot like the files of Epstein. Yeah, alright, so check this out. I've talked about the Dark Tower a little bit, and it has been talked about. The book, It, has been talked about a lot. The book, It, has been talked about in the movie, and we'll talk about it a little bit. I'd want to go back and read it before I talk about it too much. And I talked about the Dark Tower, okay? Dark Tower series, but this is just the title work of the book. It's the last book of the Dark Tower series called The Dark Tower. Alright, we're going to talk about that too. These are some other books in that series. But what we're going to talk about first is this. This is called Four Past Midnight. Alright? It's a book of short stories which contains The Langoliers, The Library Policeman, The Sundog, which I think is about a pawn shop camera that you take a picture and there's like a dog ghost in there and it's moving towards you in the pictures. Eventually it breaks out of the camera or something. And I guess that's the last one in there, so I don't... Okay, so we got The Langoliers. Don't go. This is going to get better. Just be patient. Oh yeah, Secret Window, Secret Garden. Johnny Depp made a movie about Secret Window, Secret Garden. Anyways, Four Past Midnight. There's a story called The Library Policeman about a supernatural, demonic policeman that sort of patrols around the library area, and he, well, to be nice about it, he no touches the children. The main character gets R-worded by this cop. It's described in pretty graphic detail, which is crazy. But even crazier, just as crazy, is this passage. Attend. This is from page 529 to page 530 of the hardcover edition of Four Past Midnight, the short story called The Library Policeman. This is not child rape. This part is not. Let me preface. Alright. So in this part of the story, the main character is discovering his friend being victimized by a vampire type. So listen to this. Willie's face came into my sight over her shoulder. A little piece at a time, like a moon coming out of eclipse. At first, all I could see of her was her blonde hair. There was masses of it, all in curls and ringlets. But then I began to see her face as well. And I seen what she was doing. There was no way they were going to see me, not unless I reached up and started hammering on one of the overhead pipes. Their eyes were closed, but that wasn't the reason. They were lost in what they were doing, you see. And they were both lost in the same place because they were hooked together. Ardelia's face wasn't human anymore. It had run like warm taffy and made itself into this funnel shape that flattened her nose and pulled her eye sockets all long and Chinese to the sides and made her look like some kind of insect, a fly maybe, or a bee. Her mouth was gone again. It had turned into that thing I started to see just after she killed Mr. Levin, the night we were laying in the hammock. It had turned into the narrow part of the funnel. I could see these funny red streaks on it, and at first I thought it was blood, or maybe veins under her skin, and then I realized it was lipstick. The person he's seeing, her face is transformed, you see, and the description of her eyes becoming narrow and Chinese, that is Stephen King's words, not mine, okay? Stephen King, liberal, sir, calling people Chinese-eyed. I don't think that's very progressive and forward-thinking, but that's besides the point. Let's continue. She didn't have lips anymore, but that red paint marked where her lips had been. She was using that sucker thing to drink from Willie's eyes. Willie is a young boy. These are after school, spend time at the library ass grade school aged kids. Okay? Willie is his friend. And he's witnessed him being victimized by some type of a creature that appears human, but transforms and grows along. He calls it a proboscis. Anyways. Sam looked at Dave, thunderstruck. He wondered for a moment if the man had lost his mind. Goes for one thing. This was something else. He didn't have the slightest idea what this was, and yet sincerity and honesty shone on Dave's face like a lamp. And Sam thought, if he's lying, he doesn't know it. Dave, are you saying Ardelia Lortz was drinking his tears? Naomi asked hesitantly. Yes, and no. It was his special tears she was drinking. Her face was all stretched out to him. It was beaten like a heart. And her features were drawn out flat, so stretched high. I imagined when I read this the original Beetlejuice movie where they stick their head and pull it back. That. Okay. She looked like a face you might draw on a shopping bag to make a Halloween mask. What was coming out of the corners of Willie's eyes was gummy and pink, like bloody snot or chunks of flesh that have almost liquefied. She sucked it in with that slurping sound. It was his fear she was drinking. She had made it real somehow, and made it so big that it had to come out in those awful tears or kill him. You're saying that Ardelia was some kind of vampire, aren't you? Sam asked. Dave looked relieved. Yes, that's right. When I've thought of that day since, when I've dared to think of it, I believe that's just what she was. All those old stories about vampires sinking their teeth into people's throats and drinking their blood are wrong. Not by much, but in this business, close is not good enough. They drink, but not from the neck. They grow fat and healthy on what they take from their victims, but what they take isn't blood. Maybe the stuff they take is redder, bloodier, when the victims are grown-ups. Maybe she took it from Mr. Levine. I think she did. But it's not blood. It's fear. He goes on to describe in the next section, which is section 5 at the bottom of page 530, that after a while the stuff coming from the corners of Willie's eyes started to get paler and paler, and there was less and less of it. I could see that, that thing of hers, proboscis, Naomi said quietly. I think it must have been a proboscis. Is it? Alright, I could see that proboscis thing stretching further and further out, not wanting to miss any, wanting to get every last bit. And I knew she was almost done. And when she was, they'd wake up and she'd see me. And when she did, I thought she'd probably kill me. That's enough of that. Again, that's page 529 to page 531 of 4 Past Midnight, the short story, The Library Policeman. We won't get into the part where the library cop snuggle struggles with this young school-aged boy that Stephen King wrote this graphic depiction of in this short story. We'll just talk about how the fear coming out of the children, which this vampire wanted, came out as pink juice, thicker than tears, and it came right out of them. Now let's see. Our publication date by Penguin Group 1990. Yep. 1990. So, yeah. 1990. It's 36 years ago. This book was published. And they made a movie about the Langoliers and Secret Window, Secret Garden. I guess I was in the 6th grade when I read this. Maybe 5th grade. That would have been 92. 91, 92, somewhere in that neighborhood. So Stephen King was writing about this. About kids getting graphically abused. And about a vampire drinking the pink substance right off of the children's face as they hypnotized and paralyzed and terrified the child. Similar to what happens in the story of It, with the shape-shifting, interdimensional. I mean, he looks like a clown, but he's not really a clown. It's one of the forms that he takes. Really disturbing, right? How many of y'all have read the book? I don't even want to really read the book. But I am highly considering it now. I mean, as someone who I haven't read it in probably at least 20 years. It might not be bad. What we're going to talk about today is the ending part of The Dark Tower. Okay? We got The Wolves of the Kala, which is book number 5, alright? The other books were considerably earlier, so they don't really matter in this specific discussion. This book was published in 2003. This is the edition that was available when it came out. It was, well, this thing was $35 in 2003. I don't know that that's how much it cost at Walmart where I got it. But anyways, this is The Wolves of the Kala. This is book 5. This is book 1 of the last of the ending trilogy. This is the Song of Susanna. It also came out, I think it came out in 2003 as well. I'm pretty sure they all came out. Okay, 2004, my bad. So this one came out in 2004. So you got 2003, then 2004. And you've got this one here, The Dark Tower. And it is also 2004. So, this is the final book of The Dark Tower. That is the gunslinger Roland Deschain, the last gunslinger out of Gilead from Imworld. His world moved on, as they say, which means it fell into ruin, and all of the old wisdom, knowledge, and magic was either lost or forgotten or destroyed. And he's now the last of his kind, roaming about. He's on a quest to get to the Dark Tower, and it's really nebulous about what the Dark Tower is, but check this out. If you're still here, you're in this, right? If you're still here at 14 minutes, you're in this. If you're here at 14 minutes, go ahead and like and share and subscribe, why don't you? This will just take a second. I'll give you time. Alright. So the last gunslinger, Roland Deschain, son of Stephen, out of Gilead, he's on a quest to the Dark Tower. And the main bad guy in this whole series, and as much as there is one, is called the Crimson King. And the Crimson King's really nebulous. They don't really talk about too much who he is until the very last book. Nobody really knows. He's just a name. And so the Crimson King is basically like the devil incarnate. He can shapeshift, and he's psychic, and he can drive people mad with a look, and he can heal from grievous wounds, and he's a vampire, and he's not a vampire, and he's magic, and he's all this stuff. He's powerful, but he's also very limited, and he has limitations that keep him from going everywhere he wants to go. He's trapped in a place. He's trapped in the Dark Tower, and he can communicate with his army or whatever, his generals, the people that run his stuff for him. Well, these these folks are known as the Low Men, and they're also known as the Taheen. That's Taheen, I believe. I could just be showing you. I don't know why I'm sitting here talking about this. Alright, so and the Low Men are they are superstitious subhumans, but they consider themselves to be a higher level than humans. They're essentially they're chimera. They're like half rat, half person, half bird, half person, half pig, half person, and they'll put on these masks. That's not a good represent. This is from the book. This is one of them. This is representation of. Really. This is the book essentially description. They dressed however they wanted in our clothes, but they were usually pretty bright colored. They had a lot of flair or whatever, and they liked jewelries, and they looked like some kind of a predator animal: weasel, birdie, this guy, another bird, Anyways, they had masks. I mean, that's not one, but kind of sort of, They had masks that they would wear, and they weren't very good masks. They'd break down. Oh, hey, that's not bad. How about this? Yeah. So see, some of them had varying degrees of ability to pass for sort of human if they kept their hat pulled down or whatever, But they also had these masks that they would wear. And this is not the Illuminati eye. This is the eye of the Crimson King. It's its own. They got his whole own symbolism in this series of books, and that's one of them. Anyways, they had these masks, and the mask would sort of decay, or rip and tear, and little bits of their fluff would be poking out of there. So they weren't the greatest masks. But my point is this: they were not human, and they would. Check this out. Can't remember what the Dixie Pig. How did I forget that? I'm in the heart of Dixie. So there's a restaurant in the Dark Tower in New York City in what is called the Keystone World, which is like the main world. That's the main. Everything hinges on that world. It's where real Stephen King lives, I suppose. The Dixie Pig. This is called the Dark Tower, Darkopedia or whatever. It's pretty informational. So let's see. Oh, really? Bear with me. Alright. So, this place called the Dixie Pig is in New York City. Alright? And it's a place that always says, it's a restaurant, and it always says closed for private function, but it's a barbecue place. See? Dixie Pig. Best ribs in New York. And in that place, they have meetings of what are called, I believe they're called the grandfathers. Yeah. The grandfathers. They are the elder vampires. And they have like meetings set up literally behind curtains, just like in the restaurant, and there's like the side room, like at other restaurants, like Get your little private party area and pull the curtain. And they're all back there eating what's called lawn pork, which is people meat. And this cat has to go through Father Callahan. He has to go through that place to get to the doorway to come through through the portal to come to the Gunslinger's world, which was portrayed by Idris Elba. But that's just, that's whatever. I think I've seen about half of the movie. And, hey, I like Idris Elba. He's a cool cat. He's a good actor. Whatever. But I don't know about the Dark Tower as a movie. No matter who plays it, it's too weird. So these guys can usually hypnotize people, but if you have the right things, the right artifacts, like this thing called the Sculpata, which was a little turtle shell. They also call these things, sometimes they call them Cantoi, but also the Cantoi can be these guys, the Taheen. Now, they'll rip you apart and they'll kill you. And they'll, drink your blood or whatever happens, but they're really into the ritualistic stuff and the eating of the long pork, and it's not just about drinking blood for these vampires, is what I'm getting at. And they had minions, which were the Taheen, and vampires, some vampires too as well. It's like there was grandfathers, and then there was vampires, and then there was the Taheen. And the Taheen were kind of like the gangsters, like the guys from Dick Tracy. They dressed kind of like the bad guys from Dick Tracy, and they looked about as convincing as actual real people as the bad guys from Dick Tracy. And they did the will of the grandfathers, the most ancient vampires, and ultimately the will of who was called the Crimson King, who would be their boss, because he was essentially like immortal. He was just a force of evil personified or whatever. So. Yeah, so that is all talked about in the good old final book of the Dark Tower. It kind of culminates up to it in the last two books before it, because in one of those books, the little village that they roll up to try to protect, the gunslinger here and his group, the children all get kidnapped by robots, and there's all the children are twins. And they take one of each twin and take something out of their brain, and they make a drug for someone else. And when they bring those children back, they are developmentally stunted, but they grow very large physically. So you have a weird agrarian society where the ones who didn't get taken are using the ones who did get taken as the farm animals, because there's no farm animals. Because it's all radioactive, and it's kind of like Fallout. I mean, it's wild. So, yeah. So, Stephen King wrote this story about these vampires who eat people at a restaurant called the Dixie Pig. And we've just recently had a whole bunch of information come out that, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know. Who could even tell anymore, but there was a restaurant mentioned in it. Let's see what's up with this place. The Cannibal Restaurant. It's in New York. Can't be it. Well, we're gonna see. Let's see where it's located at. In New York. Let's see where it's right next to the Empire State Building. On East 29th. Where was let's see where the old Dixie Pig was located. Hang on, I'm gonna sit you down. The corner of Lexington and 61st Street. Okay. So... Anyways, I just wanted to see if this thing was in the same spot or not. I don't think it is. Lexington and 61st Street. Lexington. And 61st. So it could be could be any of these potentially. How far is it from? Where's the Empire State Building? It's up here. All right. Well, anyways, who gives a shit? They'll be all right. I just wanted to see if they're not in the same spot. But my point is this: book has restaurant that does cannibalism and has portal to other realms, frequented, occupied, used, and guarded by vampires and their bodyguards, the Taheen, who are subjects of the Crimson King, and they eat people. And in 4 Past Midnight, there's stories of the vampire in that story turning into some type of a monster and drinking the fear tears, which were pink, from children. And in every one of these stories, there's kids getting banged. So, yeah, there's that. So, how about that? Under half an hour. Who said it couldn't be done? Alright. That's all I got for now.